Welcome to my video. Um, I want to say a little bit about the false spirituality of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And first of all, a little bit about my background so you know whereof I speak. I first started attending AA meetings in about 1972. So by my reckoning, that's over 40 years ago. And AA's a little bit, well, it's quite a bit different now than it was in the beginning. And it's even, in the beginning, I mean back in the 1930s when it was uh, first started as an offshoot of the Oxford group, which was also known as the First Century Christian Fellowship. And the early AAs had a faith in Christ and God. In fact, if you read the first edition of the Big Book, which most modern AAs have never even heard of, let alone read, in the personal stories, there's numerous personal stories where they talk about Christ and their belief in Christ, and but that's all fallen by the wayside. In the later editions of Alcoholics Anonymous, starting with the second edition, most of the overt references to Christianity were taken out by Bill Wilson and sanitized, as it were. And by the time I got around to AA in 1972, and really started, that was my first meeting, and really started attending seriously in 1976. And at that time they were using the third edition. And in 1977, I became an intergroup rep, which is someone who's elected by the group to go and represent them at the intergroup meetings. Uh, this was in Orange County. And one of the big controversies at that time was that was at the height of the homosexual activism, and the homosexuals were trying to get meetings marked with a little G, gay meetings, so people would know that they were gay meetings. And it was a big controversy at the time in AA, and a lot of the old-time AAs were very opposed to it and very upset. And it was a close vote, but the pro-homosexual crowd, the liberal crowd, won, and meetings started to be marked with a G. And part of the way they sold it to the intergroup representatives was, hey, if we mark the meetings G, then you'll know which meetings to avoid. But at any rate, my impetus, and it's gotten further over the years. That was a third edition. There's a new fourth edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a story in there in the fourth edition. It's called Tightrope. It's by an unrepentant homosexual who basically promotes homosexuality as being accepted and normal, and nothing wrong with it at all. And just as an aside, there is no story in the fourth edition, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, with a repentant homosexual, someone who's given up his drinking but also has given up his homosexuality. That story, although there's quite a number of those type of people, that story doesn't exist in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous anymore. So that's just the way that it is. You know, my impetus for doing this video is this is 2013, and there's a roundup in the town where I live, and um, at the roundup they're having a gay AA meeting, special meeting for gay AAs, and uh, it's sick. Uh, I mean, it's just sick. That's all. There's no other word for it. And there's AA is they make a big deal about, oh, this is a spiritual program and not a religious program, and as if they. But you know what? Homosexuality is an abomination. It's a sin, and to to whitewash it and make it seem normal is the furthest thing from spirituality that there is, and nobody talks about it. Very few people talk about it. Even the people within AA who are who realize that homosexuality is a sin and may have those Christian beliefs, um, even those people, rarely will you hear them speak up about it. They're too cowardly, and so, and if you do, then immediately you're branded as a bigot, a homophobe, a hater, you know. But that's not necessarily the case. If someone is involved in a very sinful, destructive lifestyle, and 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 in their egotism and their pride, they're they're too hardened in their heart to admit that they're wrong. You know, the loving thing is not to accept them the way they are, but the loving thing is to to point out to them that it's wrong. It's completely unloving. It's completely unspiritual to accept people that way. If you were a thief, and there's plenty of thieves in AA, and you went to an AA meeting, and if they had special meetings where thieves, where everybody said, well, being a thief is just okay, you know, I mean, I was born a thief, and I mean, everybody would think that's absurd. But AA is strayed very far from its Christian roots. There's been as I said, they've taken out the Christian testimonies that are in the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. That book is online. You can read the personal stories where they give their testimony to their spiritual awakening, and I recommend that you do it. And as far as uh, uh, AA being spiritual, it's a false spirituality. It's not a real spirituality anymore, and it's a sick program now, and no one will speak about it. Especially, least of all, the drug treatment centers like the Betty Ford Center, which is by their own admission they're very gay friendly, which means that they don't say they don't say wrong is wrong. I want to leave you with one little quote to show you how far it's sank. This is from AA. This is from AA literature. You can go to the AA World Services website. It's online. It's from a pamphlet called "Are You Different?" And here's it. Here's the parting one of the quote from the story in there. Um, the story is, "My name is Podrick and I'm gay." In AA today, I know sober leather fans, transvestites, and members of every other sexual group there is. But the important, but the only important thing here is that we are all human beings, all alcoholics, and all in AA together. So, so apparently there's Um, there's nothing quite wrong with there's nothing wrong with being a homosexual. So hey, as long as you don't drink, it's quite all right. So I'll leave it to the viewer to decide whether there is real, authentic spirituality in Alcoholics Anonymous, or is it a program that has really, really lost its way? Thanks.